Planet of the Daleks is another story I don't really hear very much about, but I'm not entirely sure why, because I thought this one was great. In fact, I liked this story so much that I think it could rival the Dalek invasion of Earth as my favorite Dalek story so far. We start off with the Doctor unconscious and with Jo being our main protagonist for a sizable portion of the first episode, and she does really well.
I haven't seen any form of intelligent life. Except there's bits of statue by the TARDIS.
She leaves the Doctor in the TARDIS to go find help for him, and what she finds outside is a brutal place. So first off, I love the entire setting of this serial. I love this very vibrant forest. I think it's gorgeous, and it does look ever so slightly off from a normal Earth forest. It's just too bright and, of course, very deadly. This is a very dangerous location. There are plants spraying some very nasty poisons, and there are even some invisible creatures to be found around. And it is early on when we find out about these invisible creatures, which I honestly think is a really cool idea, and I like how they're used throughout the story. Many of them are sadly enslaved by the Daleks, but they're an interesting part of this one. And also just the idea is cool because then you don't have to design an alien for the episode, which is pretty neat. And honestly, one thing that I really loved about this story is how dark and genuinely creepy it can be. We get some gruesome imagery, albeit somewhat dated, rather early on in this story. And there isn't a lot of that, but what there was I really enjoyed. The story moves on from that and continues to flow throughout, doing different things at different parts and always managing to remain engaging and entertaining. It never really feels as though it's spending too much time on one aspect of the story. Everything feels rather well balanced, and that's one of the story's best advantages. Its balance, how it accomplished so much in terms of engaging me as an audience member. I do really quite like how the Daleks are handled in this one. Generally, when I think of great Dalek stories, stories that come to mind are ones like Dalek, where the show really shows how single-minded this Dalek is, what its focus is, and how unstoppable it can be. But that is of course a New Who story, and the way that the Daleks are treated in this serial is quite different. These Daleks think more, they plan more, they scheme more. It shows them working things out and solving problems. And while they're not presented in a way that is particularly intimidating or scary, I think portraying them as smart is equally effective.
This was hidden on the prisoner's body. This shows where the Thals have concealed their explosives. Take a patrol immediately. Locate explosives and destroy. I obey.
Also, the story is just really smart at places. The way that it plays out, the choices certain characters make, sure, of course it's not all perfect, but genuinely I love the different directions that it takes and the way it's affected by the plans characters come up with, and the way the Daleks try to work against those plans. Also, here's the part of the review where I give the obligatory praise to the dynamic between the Doctor and Jo. They're as great as ever in this one, and they really have proven to be one of the best duos I have seen in Classic Who. And it's really cool how far Jo has come because I didn't really enjoy her much in Season 8, but here she's just so good both on her own and with this Doctor.
Doctor, what shall we do?
Well, first of all, we've got to stop the Daleks releasing their bacteria. Second, we've got to make sure that their army stays inactive. And third, we've got to generally put an end to their chances of invasion of other planets.
Well, how are we going to do all that?
I haven't the faintest idea.
What is definitely true about this one is that it does borrow from other Dalek stories that have come before that are written by Terry Nation. And, you have these Daleks, you have an opposing group of people, you have them trying to confront, and the ending goes about as you would expect. But I still think it works. I think that it takes what has been done before and it presents it in a unique and interesting way. It doesn't do a ton of new things, but the things that it does new, it does really well, and I think the aspects that are reused are presented in a better way. So sure, you could criticize this one for how much it borrows from previous Dalek stories, but I think that the style of this one, what it does new, is enough different that it doesn't really feel like the previous ones, like the Daleks or the Dalek invasion of Earth, or even the Daleks' master plan, and definitely not the chase. It feels like it's doing its own thing, which I really appreciate. You can take elements that have been done before and present them in a new and interesting light, and I feel that that is what is done here. They don't just take the same story, copy-paste it, and leave it at that. It feels stylistically different, and it feels like the places that they go to and the things that they do are significantly different enough that it changes the feel of the story, even though some of the core elements of traditional Dalek stories are still baked into this one.
Locate and destroy.
At this point in the review, I am going to discuss spoilers, so if you want to avoid that, then you can skip the time as shown on screen, and if you're sticking with me, then let's discuss this episode. Honestly, there's just a lot of stuff that I really didn't want to be too detailed about because I feel that this one is probably more enjoyable the less that you know about it. So I'm just going to go through some stray spoiler thoughts that I had about this story. I love the scene with Joe hiding from the invisible creature. That was quite tense and thoroughly captivating. The cliffhanger for part 1 is pretty neat, honestly. I'd kind of heard about this one before, so it didn't surprise me all that much, but it really was still neat and I liked it.
Daleks.
I really enjoyed how they used the molten ice to take out the Daleks, and then proceeded to use those Dalek casings to their advantage. I thought that was really smart and cool.
Well done. Well done.
I didn't know that molten ice was really a thing. I tried looking it up, and from what I can tell, it might be real, but there doesn't seem to be a lot of info there. Either way, regardless of the possibility, I love the idea of molten ice, and I love how it's used in this particular serial, especially in part 3. I also love that the Thals are brought back in this one. I don't think we've seen them since their first Dalek story in 1963, so I thought bringing them back was just pretty neat. I don't like this weird introduction of this guy being into Joe. That was very unnecessary, but mercifully a small part of the story. I actually didn't appreciate that the story showed us one of their invisible creatures in the final part. I felt that kind of took away from them a little bit, but maybe that's just me. I love the ending with everybody taking out the Daleks using the molten ice. That was just really fun to watch. I also love that the Doctor tells Terran about not glorifying war. I thought that was a really great moment and I genuinely appreciated it.
When you get back to Skaro, you'll all be national heroes. Everybody will want to hear about your adventures.
Of course.
So be careful how you tell that story, will you? Don't glamorize it. Don't make war sound like an exciting and thrilling game.
I understand.
Tell them about the members of your mission that will not be returning. Like Morrow, and Weber, and Marit. Tell them about the fear. Otherwise, your people might relish the idea of war. We don't want that.
Overall, this story is great. It's thoroughly engaging and consistent throughout, with some really great standout moments. The Daleks are portrayed really well in the story as thinking creatures to be taken seriously, while at the same time being ruthless killing machines deep down. This one contains what I think are some very well-handled action scenes, as well as some great surprises throughout, and also a fantastic setting for the whole serial. The Doctor and Joe are great as you would expect, and this story is easily one of Pertwee's best so far, and I am going to give Planet of the Daleks a rating of 8.75 out of 10. If you join me this coming Sunday, then I will be bringing you a review of the Season 10 finale, The Green Death, an episode that I have already seen. So, what do you think about Planet of the Daleks? Do you agree with me? Is this story a great one, or perhaps not as great as I am saying? Be sure to let me know down below if you feel like doing so, and I hope to see you around again next time for my review of the Season 10 finale, The Green Death. But if not, that is absolutely fine, just as long as you know that I appreciate your time here today. And with that said, that's going to do it for now, folks. So, thank you very much for watching. Take care, and have a lovely week.